Hey, this is Raven. Welcome to my YouTube channel again for Lessons Learned. And I have some things on my mind today I want to discuss with you. And I've been thinking a lot about this, pretty much all my life, really, about just how all things affect other things. And and you don't, there's kind of unfortunately, an attitude in this world. I think in a lot of ways, from what I've seen, that we're getting more and more selfish. We're getting more and more like, I'm just doing my thing, or if I don't get caught, then it's okay, or it's just between me and so, or I didn't really hurt anybody, so therefore there's nothing wrong with it, and all that comes back to and centers around as if we're the center of the universe, and that's just not the case. I believe everything affects everything else. I believe, that there's that it's, if we would get that in our head and think about what we even think about, because it all begins as a thought process. I mean, it's just like, like Jesus said, and you're thinking, oh, well, I'm gonna get religious now, but no, I'm not. If I don't care whether you're religious or you're Christian or whatever you claim to be, if you're a human being, you'd be a fool to ignore the wisdom of wise people like Jesus. And Jesus said, if you look on a woman and lust after her, then you've committed adultery already with her in your heart. And a lot of people want to take it out of context, say, oh, you're not even supposed to look at a girl. But that's not what it's saying. He's trying to teach a principle here. He's saying everything begins as a thought. Everything. And he said you've got control over it while it's a thought. But once you let those thoughts become actions, then because they get out of your control. They get into a realm that affects people even more. So what I'm saying is that because he's saying that it begins as a thought, I'm saying we all got to take our thoughts seriously. I like to in my fantasy series that I write called Raven Quest. I talk a lot about, I hint at lots of different things in there, but I talk about a concept in there that I just call it ether. I don't know what else to call it, but to me, it's like there's this great balance of things, and it's like there's an ether all about us and every living thing. It's like some kind of vast invisible ocean that fills us all with life and connects us. Within it, there's often storms, but it's always filled with the ripples that are caused by each created being's choices, good and evil, and even those things that are basically neither good nor evil. The most peaceful and enlightened among us still send forth a steady ripple and energy that stabilizes this instability in the ether. We're all connected is the point. All we do affects every other thing. Our actions cause the greatest ripples of all. But have no doubt, our very thoughts also affect all living things and all creation, for all actions are preceded by thoughts. I mean, think about this. Potential actions present themselves every day to like this courtroom in our minds to be tried by us. And we try it out, and we look at this, and we look at that, and sometimes we don't even weigh it out, but it's presented to us in this courtroom in our minds, and then we make our choice. But it all begins as a thought. Now, some would say there are some things that affect our world more than others, and it may seem so. But the reality is every thought, every action, every choice has no less effect than another. I mean, how can it? Because it all began as a thought. So what if we as human beings raised our awareness to the point of what we even thought of, was important? Another time something that Jesus said, we said that it's bad to murder. And then he said, I tell you, if you hate your brother, then you've committed murder. Again, the same principle there. You haven't actually committed murder. But he's saying if you're going to murder somebody, where does it begin? You're going to think about it. You're going to plan it out. You're going to decide if you're going to do it or not. And then you're going to do the action. And then it has its effect. So therefore, I say that even our thoughts are very important because we're considering those things, because our thoughts become our perception. Our thoughts become our reality. We can think about someone that hurt our feelings, and we can dwell on that long enough to where we'll get to the point where we hate that person, maybe even plot revenge about them, talk about them, gossip about them. All because we got the thought in our heads that this is a bad person and they offended us. I'm amazed by, one thing that just stood out to me so much on social media, in Facebook, especially, is how easily people are offended. I mean, it's getting to the point where you can't even express yourself without offending someone. And then people want to actually institutionalize it, and protect it and pass laws to protect their particular line of thinking and their particular philosophy. It's getting to that point, but it all comes down to what are we thinking? We've got to think differently. I want to do a session, on just anxiety and on fear and dealing with depression and things like that, because I've been through those things myself, still do sometimes. But I want to talk about what I've learned about it, and a lot of it has to do with our thoughts, our perception of something. It has a lot to do with what we think of something, and it has a lot to do and affects our actions. If we would just think of the things that we say, we wouldn't say something hurtful to someone. If we there there's no sense, for example, of two people when they get into an argument to start screaming at each other, or start saying just bad things about them, or calling names or something like that. What's the point in that? You need to slow down, take your thoughts, and think about what you're thinking about. Think about the act. Think about the consequences of what you're about to say, because no matter, the old saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words may never hurt me. But the fact is, words do hurt. There are words, I mean, especially with children, little children, we got to watch what we say to kids, because everything that we say to them as an adult when they're little becomes their inner voice when they're older. And that's so important, what we say to them. I'm not saying, don't correct them. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying don't hurt their little feelings and stuff, but you don't want to hurt their feelings, and injure them in that way. You want to be careful what you say. Everything that you say should be to build someone up. If you have to argue about something, that's fine. Just do it civilly. Do it in a way that you respect one another. I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, you can say anything to anybody about anything if you just approach them respectfully about it. I think that people need to come together and they need to talk about stuff, but they need to do it respectfully. You need to respect people with the respect that you expect to be respected by. Because you can talk about it, you can come to some kind of resolve. But it all comes down to your thoughts and the motives of your heart, really, too. I mean, one thing that you've got to examine in your thoughts is you've got to think about, well, why am I thinking this? Why is this important to me? Yeah, don't talk yourself out of something about not talking to a person, or something like that you're going to approach, because, but at the same rate, too, I mean, sometimes you need to say, well, it's just not worth it. But don't get in the habit of that either, because something can kind of just go on and on and on and become a problem, a bigger problem. If you'd have said something to begin with and talked to them about it, then maybe it wouldn't be the big problem it is now, and it could be a small problem you could deal with now. But so it's important to speak to one another. Just do it respectfully. Look at the motives of your heart. Are you just trying to get your own way? I mean, it's like when people argue, it should never be about winning an argument. You've got to present your case to, it's like pretend like each of you is a judge, and that you're both trying to talk out this case, but you're also, though, the lawyer that's representing, your side of it and what you're thinking, but you got to weigh out everything that's said between the two parties, and if you just get into an argument like with your wife or something like that, and you win the argument, don't pat yourself on the back, because you both lost. You both lost if that's all it was about, was winning an argument. Same with a war, anything else. If you just go in there and you've won the war, then you've both lost, because all you've done is conquered, and you've caused, and you're over somebody else, and nobody should be over anybody else. Your thoughts are important. Your thoughts and the way you approach people are important. The way you handle things. It's just like telling a lie. It's at the top of my list of things that I hate the most is liars. People that just think that they can just get away with it, and very often they do, because a lie is one of those things that is very often easy to get away with. Because but you got to realize that sooner or later, though, if you do get caught in a lie, then you got to prop it up with another lie, and another lie, and another lie. And before long, you can lose track of the lies yourself. It can get that bad. Why lie to someone? I mean, what's the point in it? It's selfish. It's trying to get your own way. It's not even considering that other person's feelings. It's not considering that other person's life and how it affects it. Don't lie. It's better to just be honest with someone and say, I can't talk about that with you. That's something that I can't talk about right now, or, don't lie about it. And that includes keeping your word. I mean, I always tell people all the time, just tell me what you can do, and then do what you tell me you can do. I hate it when people say they're going to do something and they don't do it. I would rather them just say, I can't do it, or or maybe if something does happen, then be honest enough for me to come and say, look, something happened, and I'm not going to be able to do what I said I was going to do, and if you would just give me a little more time or whatever, work something out, but be honest with a person and have some integrity about yourself. There's stuff, yeah, that's none of nobody's business, but you still ain't got to lie about it. If there's something you don't want to share, then just say that. If you don't trust somebody enough to talk to them, then that's okay. But at least be honest with them and let them know that this isn't anything against you, but I don't feel like that's something that I care to share with you, and you're not in that circle of people that I would share that with, or I'm still processing this, and I need to figure out how to say what I need to say. But my point is, and all this talk right here is, like I said, just think about what you're thinking about, because your thoughts affect everything. If your perception becomes reality, and we've got to get to the point to where we care enough and we think enough about how everything affects everything else, and it will go so far with you in life if you will just consider that all your actions begin with a thought, and all your thoughts are important. Think about who you are. Even the Bible even says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. I mean, that's so true, and you see it with Zig Ziglar and everybody else. They're bringing this out like it's something new, but it's not. I mean, you got to believe in a certain thing. You got to believe a certain thing about yourself, and what you think about yourself what becomes what you are. That inner voice inside of you that says you're no good, or a person, or it can also go to the other extreme, and say, oh, I'm the greatest, and most popular and all this stuff, and it comes back to balance, people. It really, really comes down to balance. All things in moderation, all things done in respect. All things begin with a thought. And I want you to just understand this, because we've got to raise an awareness of this, and it needs to start just with you and your loved ones, and this will help you if you'll think about this. So anyway, I'm getting to a point where I'm repeating myself a little bit. Sorry about that, but I wanted to bring forth this, and I hope this has helped a little bit. And I hope you'll think about this, because your thoughts are important. And visit me on my website, wayoftheraven.net, and I've got some button there that you can click on to look at my blogs, where I've written lots of different things about relationships and such. I've got some Kindle books for sale. I've got some books for sale. I teach survival skills and lots of different things. And I want to help you all I can. If you want to email me, it's raven@wayoftheraven.net. Please feel free to comment below, and tell others about this YouTube channel if you would. Share it on social media and stuff. And I appreciate your support. I appreciate you listening to me ramble on a bit. You have a good day.